take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking on Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing this week?
I am good. How are you today, sir?
Cold. I'm trying to
It's
stay that
cold.
way. Man, it's just one of the cold, rainy days here
Yeah.
in Birmingham. Just all day, and we got this old ass heater and
Oh
unit
man.
and stuff that anytime it rains in the winter, it kind of stops working for a few hours. So,
Oh yeah.
but it's not too bad, But we got
Right.
space heaters and stuff. It's just annoying.
Yeah.
We fight with the insurance company trying to get them to fix the damn thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, other than that, it's been a good week. Kind of not much going on too much this week in the world of sports. We'll
Yeah.
hit
Not
you
too
up with a
much.
little Super Bowl preview today. And maybe talk some stuff. We'll begin uh, down in Tuscaloosa on the hardwood. Another good week for Alabama hoops. They putting a few of those together in a row now.
Yes, sir.
Uh, began, what was that, Tuesday night? Horrible start in Athens at
Man, was it?
Georgia,
Yeah.
down 17-2 to start the
Yeah.
game, down 15 at halftime, just looked horrible.
Right.
And then second half, outstanding comeback for the Tide, huge win. Took the lead, with about 3 minutes left in the game, maybe 3-4,
Yeah.
and held on to it. After they took it, they didn't let it go.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just outstanding performance by the Tide down in Athens, and then they followed it up, blew out Mississippi State yesterday down in Tuscaloosa last night.
Huge man.
Not even close at any point, really.
No.
Just absolute great week. Just speak on it.
It was.
What does this week mean for Alabama basketball?
Well, I was impressed with that effort. Well, the comeback effort on Tuesday. I mean, that's a game that past years, honestly, we probably don't ever show up.
Mm-hmm.
And just great second half effort. And it's showing this team showing a lot of heart. Just hitting the comeback on the road. Anytime in the SEC on the road is a tough spot, especially when that other team gets on the road there. Like you said, I mean, we got down 17 too early, couldn't hit anything from 3-point range. Georgia was like 50% from the line, out rebounding us. It was just, nothing was going right. I mean, the effort was there. I mean, I thought we had a good effort, just was nothing going our way at all. Couldn't hit anything. But second half, like you said, just came out completely different team. Obviously whatever was said at halftime, said and well, resonated well with the team there because I mean they came out hitting shots. Just just a tale of two halves completely. Able to come out of there with the win and then really use that second half effort to really basically, that was all last night. I mean, they completely dominated the Bulldogs there, Mississippi State. Just after about the 10-minute mark of the first half, honestly, the game was pretty much set. I mean, you could tell it wasn't going to be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State not at any point. I mean, obviously, when Alabama's on and they're running and able to put up, good transition back buckets, I mean, that's not how Mississippi State plays at all. I mean, they're a slow down physical team, and we're able to get them out of that element. And when our shots are falling, and Alabama's a tough team to play against when things are going their way for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, definitely a good week. I mean, games that we definitely needed. Got to sweep over Mississippi State, got another road win. Big game coming up this week. What is it? Wednesday against down in the Plains. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think anybody's won there yet.
Yeah, a return trip after that big win
Yeah.
last week over the Tigers in Tuscaloosa.
Hmm.
Yeah, just echoing everything you said there. Just absolute effort is what you really love to see. I saw something on Twitter after that Georgia game that during the huddle, one of the players said, "Hey guys, we can still win this," and Coach Oates shut him off. Said, "No, we're going to win, and here's how."
Yeah,
And you love to see that.
for
Um,
sure.
like you said, a huge road win, and from a team that it really wasn't even that long ago. We can joke about when we were in school, it seemed like we never won a road game.
Mm,
Uh, but that really, the road struggles continued for pretty much up until Nate Oates showed up. It
yeah.
felt like, so just to see that drastic change, because college
Hmm.
basketball is one of the few places where home court advantage really
Really
does mean
matters.
something.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely does. Like, yeah. And I mean, everything with you kind of feeling though that it was gonna be a weird one in that, and just with the start time. I mean, it's a 5:30 start time on the SEC network. We just came
Hmm.
ranked again. You know, just had all the signs that this is gonna be a weird game. You
Georgia's a
know,
tough team this year. That's a
they
good
are.
team.
They're a better
They're
team. Mike White. I mean, obviously
hmm
he has that SEC experience already, having been in Florida. It was up and down in Florida. I mean, he had success. It just wasn't what I guess what they wanted. But it seems to have Georgia going in the right direction. I mean, they're a much better team, I would say, than what they had been prior. They're definitely competitive in games, and I guess if they ever wanted to get over the hump and actually win those games, then we could, see what Georgia has. But
hmm Um, no, yeah, it's a good win and a good follow up too, not to suffer, the emotional letdown and to
right,
really feed off the crowd at home.
yeah,
Um,
and I just
it's
like
just
how
absolute.
last night
Go ahead.
everybody got involved. I mean,
Hmm.
Bate had a good game. Estrada had a good game, and they're picking up on the defensive end as well. Like, so that's the biggest. That
Yeah,
was the biggest question. Does this team have any defense? And they started to pick it up some, where at least people aren't getting wide open three looks and should be able to shoot 50% or better from 3 point as it started the season there. So much improved
hmm
there. They finally bought into what Nate Oates is trying to sell there.
yeah. And I want to shout out Mark Sears too, another 20 plus
Man,
game.
I
He
mean,
is on
he
a
is putting
roll.
up numbers, and the fact that he's not on any what's the name is ridiculous.
Watch list, it's
Yeah,
absolutely a crime that he is not on a
like,
Naismith watch list. You're telling me he's not one of the 20 best players in college basketball this year?
yeah, that man needs he has to
Ridiculous.
win it, but to not have him on
Hmm.
the list at all, like
Yeah, he
what the
doesn't. He
what in
doesn't
the
even have to
world?
be a finalist. We're not saying put him in the
Yeah,
top three. I mean, last year, we were is a crime that Brandon Miller wasn't a finalist,
oh yeah,
but
yeah.
this year, I mean, Mark
There's
Sears
no
deserves.
reason. There's
He deserves
no
recognition. So hopefully he'll get that kind of SEC at least recognition.
some
He's got some
SEC love.
competition, but
Yeah, yeah,
there's no reason he shouldn't be a strong contender for SEC Player of the Year.
for sure.
Um, and his turnaround, his really turning it on is part of the reason Alabama. Now that's 4 wins in a
Is
row after that bad
yeah,
Tennessee game. That's 10 of their last 11 after that
yeah.
3 game losing streak against Purdue, Creighton, Arizona. That's a team that's bounced back. Um,
Hmm.
which kind of leads to my next question I wanted to pose to you. So, are you familiar with the Ewing theory? Bill Simmons' old theory that after it was the year the Knicks went to the finals was when Patrick
Uh-huh.
Ewing was hurt, and basically what it is when your star player either leaves or gets hurt. You're without your star that's been the
Hmm.
focus of your franchise, your program for so long that
Right.
it almost helps you in a way because you're able to lose that weight, that pressure of him, and just focus on playing the
What
game. Do
you?
you think
Yeah.
that that's part of the reason that this team now um, is successful as they are without a star like Brandon Miller, or is it just took
Hmm.
them time to gel with all these new pieces Nate Oates had to get all in the offseason?
I think it's somewhere in the mix of the two, simply because, I mean, there wasn't any presumed superstar on the team coming into the season. So at times last year, it seemed like, yeah, people just sat around and watched Brandon Miller. What's Brandon gonna do? What's Brandon gonna do? And then, everything revolved around, Brandon, was he gonna score? Who's gonna put up? Who's gonna be the next guy? And
Hmm.
at the time that's where we struggled at when there wasn't a next guy. Um, we never had a consistent next guy. This year, we may not have but it seems like somebody new every week steps up.
Hmm.
Sears is Mr. Consistent. He's going to give you his 20 and, his assist. He's averaged about what 21 and 6 or 7. So I mean, he's dishing out the ball as well. I mean, he's definitely not a ball hog in any means. Um, and just he's improved so much in his points, his field goal percentage, his assists. So I mean, whatever with his offseason planning, turned been magnificent in what he's brought this season. But I think this is just a team of guys that we knew there was talent, yeah, but it just took a minute for them to gel. Um,
Hmm.
and they really seem to have come together, and they really seem to be a team that's they believe in themselves at this point. At this point, you feel like that they figure out how to win, and that was our biggest thing. They were close. They were close with Purdue. They were close with Creighton for a lot of the Arizona game. They were close, but they couldn't figure out how to piece it together, get the win. Now they seem to have that confidence. Even when we got down to Georgia, you had a feeling, man, they're going to hit a run. They're going to come back. They got down to Auburn last week. You felt, man, they're going to come back. There's a certain confidence that they've come into. Some of it just, I think it's just them gelling as a team, realizing, man, we have people that can score. We have, and they seem to play well with it. They seem to play for one another well, and there doesn't seem to be a whole bunch of egos. They seem to gel really well together for the most part.
Hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned those other guys stepping up. Grant Nelson's. It looks like he's
Yeah,
finally adjusted to
he figured
SEC
it out.
play.
Yeah.
Aaron Estrada is just an absolute great addition to have in the
Hmm.
backcourt with Sears. Um, you got guys, freshmen stepping up. You got bench players stepping up.
Yeah. You know,
Um,
my,
you know,
Muhammad
Latrobe.
Wagyu. I mean, he's a
Hmm.
energy guy. He's gonna put full effort, and he gets a lot of fouls there. Another one, I always butcher his name, Mbate. He always, he fouled out yesterday, but I mean, he almost had a triple double. I mean, full of energy. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, Latrell Wrightsell. That you mentioned him. I mean, when his three is dropping, he gets hot. He goes on little hot streaks, and he's
Dangerous guy. Shoots 43% from
yeah,
beyond the three. Yeah, guys like Rylan Griffin. He's like a spark plug for this team, man. He
for sure.
is one of those guys. On the other side of things, Nick Pringle suspended again.
Again, yeah,
Um, and basically, Nate Oates says, he didn't do anything wrong. It's not off the court. It's basically about effort and practice. And you hope
right.
that maybe something clicks for him and he really does, get it
Hmm.
together because that he would be such a great addition, a great piece to this
Right.
team on the
Yeah,
inside, especially where we need it.
yeah, for sure. Definitely need all the inside presence we can get because we're definitely a smaller team. Definitely not the most physical team. He definitely at least adds a body of can get another five fouls. Get some
Exactly. Yeah.
rebounds, maybe get some points. I mean, it seemed, after he got suspended the first time, he seemed to respond well. Was it he came back with was it the Purdue? No. The first
It
game
was
back,
around that time. Yeah.
he had a great game. He had like 16 points, and but not being there, I can't say exactly what it is. I don't know if it's an effort in practice. Is he getting into it with folks? I mean, who knows? At least it's not something that's not bad. At least it's something sport related. It's nothing criminal or something detrimental to his future. But if he can get it together and hopefully because definitely will need him another big body in March for sure. Because
Hmm. Yeah. This is the time of year. It doesn't get any easier.
no, definitely doesn't.
You mentioned the game at Auburn this Wednesday. We also go
Hmm.
at LSU next
Yeah,
weekend, and that's never. easy trip, really. We can
No,
win
it's
there,
not.
and they're not. It's not their best team they've put out. But it's
But
still a tough
they
place.
right. They're gonna give you effort.
Hmm.
So
And then
yeah.
and then we've talked many times about the end of our schedule that uh, you know after LSU, we actually get a break a little bit, and then it was, don't play a midweek game, play A&M and Florida, and then after that is when the schedule gets real tough. You go at Kentucky, at Ole Miss,
Hmm.
home for Tennessee, at Florida, and home for Arkansas. Which
Yeah.
hopefully that one's an easy one. They're struggling this year, but
Yeah,
that's a rough stretch at the end
it
of the
is a rough
season.
stretch. And there's no gimmies in that whole basically the whole month of February. There's no gimmies. I mean, you look at it. I mean, even
Mm-mm.
A&M hasn't lived up to preseason expectations. I mean, they're a very talented team. You have to come ready to go
Mm-mm.
with them. Florida,
Yeah, we
same
saw
way.
it
I
when
mean,
they beat.
they went in the rough and won. What
Mhm.
was it, Tuesday? I mean, so they seem to be coming around. I mean, they're never a team you can sleep on. Florida for sure. Yeah, and then the rematch with Tennessee going into Rupp. I mean, they struggled this week, but we've always had our struggles outside of
Mhm.
2021. I mean, we've really had our struggles with Kentucky over the year, whether it be in a regular
Mhm.
season, SEC tournaments. So anytime you play them,
Yeah,
and yeah,
especially in
we
Rupp.
rarely win at Rupp.
That's
We had definite struggles at Rupp there.
and that's huge for right now we're a 3-game lead over Kentucky, but
Yeah,
just one ahead of South
one
Carolina and
up.
Auburn in the stand-ins,
Yeah,
1.5 over Tennessee.
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, if they want to win this would be what third SEC title in 4 years.
that'd be something.
Yeah,
That's
right.
really
After
something.
after about 20 years without one.
Without one, yeah.
But yeah, so like we said, just a great week, great couple of weeks for Alabama basketball. It
Hmm.
seems like this team is hitting its peak at
Just
the right
the
time, and
right
honestly,
time.
maybe not even playing the best basketball.
'Cause really, honestly, I mean, outside of yeah, I mean, I think Mississippi State was honestly the first full game where you felt like it was a
Hmm.
full game, full success, first and second half.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think even Aaron Estrada said something about that in the his post game interview. It's like their goal is to
Hmm.
play full 40 minutes of basketball, and if
Yeah,
they can do that, this team can go toe to toe with
they
anybody.
can,
Um,
they can,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, elsewhere in the men's game, come big Saturday yesterday. Houston, Kansas, Duke, UNC, Kentucky, Tennessee,
hmm,
um, Duke, or excuse me, North Carolina with a big win over Duke at home.
yeah,
Um, it's huge for the Tar Heels. They'll move up. They're number 3 team in the
yeah.
country. They're
And you
really
figured
kind
after
of
they lost midweek to Georgia Tech that there was no way they were going to
oh
drop another one.
yeah,
That was
big mad. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, Hubert Davis really has them playing well, and they've kind of
yeah,
seems like they've kind of dominated that rivalry as of late. Of course, the big ones being you know ending Coach K's career in the
yeah.
Final Four.
Yeah.
Um, they swept
I mean,
in
I think
21.
I think Duke won last year. The Carolina was bad last year. Pretty sure Duke won both games in
Yeah,
22
yeah. It was a
or
yeah. I'm trying to
20,
find
yeah,
a
23.
year by
But,
year
but yeah, I mean, this North Carolina team, I
for
mean, they
this.
seem to be the type, they seem to be what you expect of the Tar Heels. They had that Cinderella run, Huber's first year. They were kind of bad. They got hyped last year. Were bad. They seem to be back to what they are. I know to be
Hmm.
a tough defensive team. They run well in transition. So I mean, definitely want to. I would say if you're looking at one of the favorites for a Final Four run, I mean, you'd have to look at Carolina for sure. They just seem to have all the necessary
Hmm.
pieces. And then the other games, but Kansas, they got to. big win there over Houston. They're kind of dominated the Cougars.
13-point win. Yeah.
They had some struggles before then. I think they lost two in a row before then. So I mean, Kansas seems to still be figuring it out. But then when you go to fall down, I mean that's not a place too many road teams go in and win. So always a
Yeah, and
tough
that's a
environment.
and they're as talented a team as anyone in the country.
No, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and then rough week for Kentucky at home. You
Yeah,
mentioned the Florida loss. Well, Tennessee went in there and beat them at Rupp yesterday too. So that's
yeah.
two
Dropped 100
big.
on them.
Yeah, big. Well, yeah. Tennessee looks. That's another team. We saw it firsthand. We went to Knoxville, got stomped. Tennessee is as good a team as anyone in the country.
I still don't
Um,
know how South Carolina beat them, honestly.
yeah, it's. I
I
mean,
mean, they
South
beat them,
Carolina's.
but they beat them in Knoxville, which was even more
Hmm.
impressive. But I mean,
It
Tennessee is
is
going to be
crazy.
out that day. But that's the craziest
South
the SEC
Carolina's
ball this year.
19-3.
Yeah,
At 7-2 in the SEC. It's you might say their schedule looks a little weak. They really, but when they play top teams, they beat them. They've played
yeah.
or except for they
They
lost to the
beat,
rival Clemson,
yeah.
but they beat Kentucky.
They
They
beat
beat
Kentucky. They
Tennessee.
beat Tennessee. Yeah.
They went on the road to beat Georgia yesterday too.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a tricky team. It's like
Yeah. I
it's
was kind of shocked we beat
really
them the way we did,
yeah beat them
honestly.
so bad. Yeah, and it's nice to not have to make a return trip to Columbia
Oh
either.
yeah, for sure.
If we
That's
see
not a
them
place
again,
you
it'll
want to
be
go in
and yeah
the
it'll be in
SEC.
Nashville or wherever
Yeah,
we're playing the SEC tournament this year.
yeah,
Um,
because that's not a fun spot. I mean, last year, what was it? Brandon Mayweather dropped near 50 to get out of Columbia last year.
mhm. Oh yeah, that absolute
uh,
insane game after all that
yeah,
news broke last year.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's getting to real good time in college basketball
yeah,
right now. Football season's over. Um, we still got one more, I
yeah,
think, signing day coming up, so the college football still some news there. But for the most part, it's
yeah.
college basketball season in terms of
And
college sports,
yeah,
and
conference play is fun. Like just the
yeah, it's real
atmospheres you
fun.
get,
Hmm.
and really learn about teams. And there's no gimmies on the road as we
Hmm.
see every week. I mean, someone's yeah,
And speaking of South Carolina, it's great to be a South Carolina fan right now. Their women's team too, just murdering folks.
yeah,
Still unbeaten, I believe.
yeah.
And it's a fun time at a women's game too. Shout out Caitlin Clark still doing her thing. I think she's approaching what the
Yeah.
all-time scoring record, right?
You'd have to think so. I mean, it seems like every game is down there 40. And it's going to be crazy to see what Iowa looks like without her next year because, I mean, she's definitely
Hmm.
the half, three-fourths of the scoring this year.
Hmm. But yeah, and taking a peek at the time, bracketology is where it's time of year now. I check it out a lot, every week.
Yeah.
Alabama's a 3 seed right now.
Hmm.
Should be great. Paired up in the South region where Houston would be their 1 seed, Wisconsin would be their 2 seed. They got Oklahoma would be on their side of the bracket as well. That's the 6 seed, but that's a kind of a favorable little spot to
Right. I
get to at
mean,
least to
it's
an Elite
small.
Eight run and show down with
Yeah.
Houston, maybe.
Yeah, because it's not, I mean, it's one of those ones on paper you think, man, we can hang with everybody. But at the same time, I mean, those are usually those teams that give you the biggest
Mhm.
struggle or the biggest fight are the ones you think that you should win. Like, last year
Yeah,
against San Diego State, you just had a feeling, man, they're going to be tough. And of course, it was. So,
mm, they were,
but
and
yeah,
yeah, bad time for Brandon Miller to
yeah,
get hurt, and bad time for
yeah,
everybody to have a bad shooting game.
bad night. Yeah. But
Um, Tell you
that's the
one
thing
thing
with
though.
the,
No, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, of course, as we all know, that's the biggest thing with the tournament, someone gets hot at the right time, and it's just, doesn't matter what you come in as. If the other team gets hotter, you see a new defense that you haven't seen all year, or a more physical,
Mhm.
some of these, mid majors like a San Diego State type team, the very physical teams that you don't necessarily see all year. They give people fits because you don't see a lot of that physicalness in today's basketball in general. So when
Hmm.
you get that team and if the refs let them play, watch out. And that's when you see that in the tournament, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
and
crazy.
it's. I was going to add, and speaking of physicality, it is nice to see that we're not the only ones with a big problem with how refs call games with Zach Eady.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
they played a big game against Northwestern in the middle of the
oh
week, and Northwestern
ridiculous,
coaches and the fans were
pissed.
livid about how calls he was getting, and it's right. It's weird because it's usually the other way with those big guys like that. They don't get the calls
Yeah, they
because
don't get the
it's
calls
harder.
because they
It's
can
harder to see the contact on them because they're so
exactly.
powerful. But I mean, it's like he backs into guys and then they're called for the foul. It's honestly
Yeah,
ridiculous how
yeah.
many calls he gets. And that's something to
Was
watch
that was
come
like a
tournament time too.
20? Was it like a 28 point, a 28 foul shot difference or something in that game on
Yeah, it
Tuesday or
was.
Wednesday?
Yeah,
It was really
it was
crazy.
no Northwestern's coach was hot about it. But yeah, that's like I said, it's fun time in college
Hmm.
hoops right now. Like I said, it was a big week, and a big one coming up for the Tide. At least, like we said, it's
For sure.
Wednesday return trip. We go down to the plains. As we mentioned last time we talked about that game, it's almost for the players. It seems like this rivalry is even more heated than it is on the football field. Um,
Yeah, a lot of
it is a fiery game.
yeah, a lot of might be. I mean, they probably cool off, but yeah, off the court. But yeah, once that game gets going, but they get
Mhm.
after it. Like yeah, it's a lot of dislike, and Coach Oaks or Bruce Pearl. I mean, they're good. They're seemingly good friends off the court, but yeah, when they get in that rivalry, they go at each other sometimes too. It's
Mhm.
always a fun one.
Yeah.
But definitely a tough place to win. I mean, I don't know if I expect to win down there. I just want to see, you know,
Don't
just
get blown out. Yeah, don't get
yeah,
blown
don't get
out.
yeah. How we want? I want to look competitive there.
Mhm. But if you can, get in there
Get a
and
win.
steal a
That'd be
win,
huge.
like
That
we
would
did
be
last
huge.
year, that's a huge win it's for your confidence. That's even
Mm-hmm.
more confidence building. That's a huge
Yeah,
win in the SEC standings. That's a
for
huge win for
sure.
your
That's
eventual
everything.
tournament
That's a lot of
seeding.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just a big win. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
um, but yeah, they
Right.
went to Auburn last year and beat them.
Yeah.
But that was the first time they've done that. Actually, they've done it now. Two of the last three times they played.
Yeah.
Um, they
And
went
we
in
actually
21,
went.
beat them.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah.
Um, and I know when we 22 they stomped us down there. I
Yeah,
remember
no,
that.
that was when they were number one in the country, and
Yeah,
yeah, that
they
was
they would they slaughtered us down there.
mhm.
Last year 20. Yeah, I mean, was it the three in a row? First time since 2015 that anybody's won three in a row on the hardball on hardwood, and if we could get
Yeah,
four in a row, I mean that rarely happened in this rivalry.
it was the first time since 14, 15 when Alabama also won three in a row. And the last
Hmm.
time someone's won more than that, it was actually teams were trading off big streaks. In the 11 and 12 seasons, Alabama actually won in 10. Alabama won three, or excuse me, five in a row, and that came
Five
after
in a
Auburn
row.
won four in a row, and then that came a couple years after Alabama had won seven straight in the series. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, that was a little bit part of when we were in school. We actually
But
didn't see a lot of. We only saw,
we
looking at this, one loss to Auburn in our time in Tuscaloosa, I
really,
think.
hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
crazy. But yeah, staying in college game, at least some news off the field. Uh, just real quick about, so the Big Ten and SEC this week formed an advisory board
Hmm.
um, to basically talk about it's a group of made up of university presidents, chancellors, athletic directors, blah blah blah, a bunch of guys in suits.
Yeah.
And their quote is to address the significant challenges facing college athletics. What everyone else seems to kind of worry is that it means, and it could
And
be,
the
it's a maybe
NCAA.
another, yeah, it's an end of the NCAA, which may be a good or bad thing. Even the guy
Mhm.
that started the NCAA has come out in recent years and said that yeah, it needs to be blown up and rebuilt. But what this could mean is a breakaway, at least especially in football. Hopefully not in basketball, but a breakaway and basically forming their own football league of 32
Yeah.
teams, whatever, 30, however many the two conferences have combined now.
Hmm.
Which is really unfortunate. So it's just kind of one of those news. It's not a big news story right yet, but it's one of those you're kind of looking at it like, really hope this doesn't
Yeah.
lead to college football just becoming NFL junior, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But I think some of it too is, and it's looking that way. But I mean, either way, I mean, you have to live far down the road only because of what they have in place going with the playoffs and everything like that. I'm sure it'll be a little bit before they can even move to that type of thing. I think some of it too, though, just I think they're trying to figure out from the school side and everything exactly what they want to do with this NIL stuff because a lot of people don't know one way or the other. I mean, it was funny because Tennessee got hit this past week, but you look at it and Tennessee's like, man, we didn't, we're not doing anything anybody else isn't doing. Like, why y'all worry about
mhm,
us right now? And I think that really sparked it because I don't think anybody quite knows, what's legal, what's illegal. We've seen Florida get hit, Florida State. It's like, but they're not really doing anything that other teams are doing. Obviously, you look at Ohio State, why ain't anybody talking about them? Obviously that, they're throwing around good little people aren't coming to Columbus just because it's Columbus, obviously.
mhm,
So I think that's also just figure out, what you can and can't do, and I think they're also just trying to figure out, is because there's always those talks of, are players going to eventually become employees of the school, to allow schools to directly pay the players, if that'll ever become a thing. So I think they're also trying to figure that more so than trying to become a super league at this point. Because I mean, there's a lot
mhm,
of people are trying to figure out. Because as we've seen, I mean, more seems like certain coaches and um, getting frustrated with the NIL stuff, good or bad. Like the Boston College coach up and left to go be the Packers defensive coordinator. I mean, you don't see that happen too much when you're good
mhm,
standing as a head coach. That you just go and I saw a quote. And sometimes you wonder, is that really them? I really didn't investigate to see if it was or not. But basically saying, there's so much you're doing outside of actual football, and he
mhm,
wants to focus on football. Which that's the one thing. The NFL that's what you're doing. You don't have to worry when you're a coach. You're not re-recruiting and worried about NIL and building up that NIL money from the boosters and, stuff like that. So, some people it's turning off, other people, are able to figure it out, whether they like it or not, they're able to figure it out. Cause I'm
mhm,
assuming most coaches probably, it drives them crazy. but, um, but I think, they're just trying to, I think a lot of schools are just trying to figure things out. So it isn't as hectic as what it seems this off season has been. But
mhm. Yeah, it's really weird. It's one thing for like, we got two guys coming to our defensive staff who are both head coaches at smaller schools,
right,
and
yeah,
while it's still a little weird, but sometimes that's a good opportunity for you to jump to a power,
right.
program like
Just
Alabama.
move into a big house and
Um,
honestly maybe making more money as a
mhm,
DC at Alabama than you're making as a head coach at South Alabama or the guy from
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, Maurice. You know what? I mean, I would assume that's probably mid three, 400,000 as a head coach of Buffalo max. And you're definitely probably hitting that as what his position called for in Tuscaloosa
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And you find
Yeah, and then
success
yeah,
there, it leads to a bigger job.
exactly. It sets you up for a power conference head coaching gig there.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, moving on, some more little kind of random notes before we get to our Super Bowl preview. All of the NFL head coaching positions have been filled this week. Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald goes to Seattle. Um, there are kind of rumors that um, he might want to talk to our newly hired offensive coordinator in Tuscaloosa,
Saw that.
which and got to tell you that would kind of catapult the Seahawks up my most hated teams list.
Yeah.
Taking
All
you can't
right.
take it was expecting McDonald after the job he did this year to definitely at least talk to some guys,
At least entertain
but
somebody. Yeah.
hmm um, so hopefully that
Mhm.
doesn't happen. Hopefully we at least get to see him in
At
Tuscaloosa
least
for
a year.
one
At least a
season.
year, right?
Yeah, um,
I mean,
particularly after getting Ryan Williams recommitted and all that kind of stuff.
mhm.
And then
Just because
the other,
the
go ahead.
success. I was saying just the success of him and the board have had
Hmm.
together. Just at all their stops together, they found awesome success on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I understand eventually maybe one to branch out and show, hey, that it's not just, when you're the offensive coordinator, people always wonder, is it you or the head coach? I mean, I understand maybe eventually, but hopefully we at least get to see him 1 year in Tuscaloosa. I mean, good thing at least, there was that talk that, it seemed hotter at the first of the week there when it first dropped was that Tuesday, Wednesday. But he was actually supposedly out recruiting for Alabama, which is kind of a good thing, I would say. You
Hmm.
know, he's he's not just so
Yeah,
maybe that's a good
and
sign for us.
and I think another thing too is that Mike McDonald is only 36 years old, first time head
Yeah.
coach. Obviously, he will be the NFL's youngest head coach. You
Hmm.
would think that maybe he wouldn't want to grab a guy for his
Who's
first
never
NFL
had.
coaching gig. Yeah, no NFL
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah.
Maybe a more experienced coordinator, someone you can lean
Right.
on there.
Yeah.
Especially considering McDonald's a defensive guy.
Right.
Um, so hopefully that plays in our favor too. And that was just a little bit
Hopefully.
of smoke where there's no
Right.
fire. The other change this week, of course, Washington filled their head coaching vacancy
Yeah.
with Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. Um, he's been a head coach before. He was
Hmm.
43-42 with the Falcons, of course, most famous for that huge collapse in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, 28 to
And
3
never really
lead, and
never recovered from that
never
after
recovered
that.
from it. Yeah. And a lot's put on him for that game. Arthur Smith was his offensive coordinator now too, but uh, especially when you're a defensive guy, you can't blow that lead with
Right.
in a half. There were about what 15 minutes or 18 minutes left in that game when it started. Um,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's just
so
crazy losing that
ha-
type of.
yeah, how do you feel about him? Leaving Dallas, like from a Cowboys fan perspective.
Well, it's kind of a love hate thing because I mean I think he overall for his time in Dallas he did a heck of a job as a defensive coordinator. I mean we were bad when he got there, really bad.
Hmm.
And he got us to a respectful. Really the only frustrating thing with him is and maybe some of it just with our size and everything. We were during his tenure there we were never good at stopping the run. We couldn't stop. And we're pretty. Our secondary is pretty good. We're good at getting turnovers, but we can't stop the run when it matters for a reason.
Hmm.
We saw in that playoff game, we couldn't stop Aaron Jones for anything. In that loss to Miami, we couldn't stop their running game. Like that's been my really the only thing, the from most frustrating thing with him, just couldn't stop the run. But overall, I think he did a heck of a job. I mean, as far as him, you expect at some point, obviously, with his success in Dallas, obviously someone was going to give him a second shot.
Hmm.
Going to a rival, you don't always like to see that because he knows you. But I mean, also we know him as well. Uh, but overall, I mean, I think he had a decent run in Dallas. I mean, at that, and then the team, the players really liked him. He really got
Hmm.
the most out of the team. It seemed like so. Hopefully we'll see what he does with that second tenure in the NFL. I mean, they got that
Hmm.
number 2 draft pick, so that'd be interesting what they do as far as do they get their quarterback of the franchise there? So
Hmm. Um, yeah. So we'll see who replaces him in Dallas there. Baltimore named Zachary Orr their new defensive coordinator, a former player there. He's a second team All Pro linebacker for them. He's
is he a linebacker? He was a linebacker coach this year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he is he's a position coach. He was their inside linebackers
Oh,
coach.
okay.
So that's pretty cool. He's the first former Raven to be named a coordinator in the franchise history.
Nice.
It was a popular pick with the players and stuff too, and
I saw his
especially
picture.
good to keep him on because they've also lost a couple other guys on that staff. They lost their defensive backs coach to
Hmm.
Tennessee, and then they also lost. I just saw something today, I believe. I'm blanking on his name, wherever the hell he is. Let's see if I can find it. But another guy on that, Anthony Weaver, they lost
Hmm.
him to somewhere. Uh, it hasn't been updated yet in this list I'm looking at, but yeah, he ended up somewhere. So good to keep at least somebody on that staff.
Right.
But also a rough week for Ravens fans after the loss,
Yeah.
losing McDonald. But yeah, and then the other kind of big news is um, Cliff Kingsbury was rumored to be back in the
Yeah.
NFL with Las Vegas earlier in the week. Then he pulled himself from that job, but now the word is that he might be headed to Washington to be Dan Quinn's offensive coordinator. Um, so that's interesting. He's always
Mm-hmm.
been highly thought of, even if the results haven't quite always really been there for him.
And then
But he's,
maybe his thing is offensive coordinator. Maybe he
yeah.
just been meant to be the head coach guy, just focus on that one thing that he really good at. Yeah, because I mean, really, I mean, he was okay at Texas Tech. I mean, he
He's
was all
basically built
right,
his career off the guy that groomed Pat Mahomes, you know?
pretty
Um,
much. I
yeah.
mean, obviously, he has a great offensive mind, so maybe that's his
Mhm.
calling is being an offensive coordinator.
Mhm.
So we will. That would be interesting because then you have to think he'd have probably a big say in what they do at quarterback. So, and we know what type of quarterback he likes. So,
Yeah. Let's see. Here's some news. Yeah, Anthony Weaver is now the Dolphins' defensive coordinator.
okay,
Um, it looks like the Saints are going to grab Clint Kubiak, son of Gary, currently on the 49ers staff,
as
to
a
be their
as a
new offensive
OC,
coordinator. Hmm.
yeah, that's
Yeah, as
all
their
that.
OC down there in New Orleans. Yeah.
That's a team with a lot of talent. You just wonder if they
Hmm.
can ever figure it out. They really have
Yeah.
had their ups and downs with that QB spot since Drew Brees is no longer there. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously Jameson's, no, it seems like just injuries that plagued him more than anything because he seemed to have gotten it together in New Orleans before he got hurt last year, or before, when he was the guy down there. Was that 2 years ago now?
Yeah, and it's been a weird thing there because he's immensely popular with teammates, immensely
Hmm.
popular with the fans there, but never,
Yeah,
after that injury, they signed Carr, and obviously you pay that much for a guy, you're going to start him.
yeah.
But
And Carr
Jameis
really
almost,
hasn't.
he's no, he really hasn't, and Saints fans not the biggest fan of Derek Carr down there.
No.
So it's interesting, yeah, and But yeah, so maybe he can be the one to get it together. Who knows? Maybe the Saints have a trade in the works.
Yep.
Who knows? Um, Before we leave coaching, real quick, are you shocked that Bill Belichick did not get snatched up this offseason, or do you think it's because maybe he just not willing to give up complete control, or do people think that he's washed now? What is it?
You know, I think some of it's just I think it's more the control thing than anything. I mean, I don't think, most teams have GMs. So, you know, do you want to give everybody that control?
Mm-hmm,
And then you've seen kind of the end in New England. I mean, obviously the hasn't, for a while he was a genius of the draft. Always moved down and got some random guy that worked out well. But that luck has kind of run out recently. Um, so, I just think how things ended in New England. Some of it too is just his Bill's way no matter what. That really doesn't work in today's sports as much. I mean, the hard ass personality really, I mean, doesn't doesn't resonate so much with today's player.
mm-hmm.
You got to have more of a. I mean, off the field, he seems like a good enough, nice enough guy, and way different. But just his, just that old school mentality, I don't think really resonates with the players as much. And just to be the head coach, the GM, like I think everybody's kind of getting away from that model altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and honestly, I mean, it's a tough thing to do when you're everything. Because I mean, you're coaching, but then if like when you're the coach and you're also the GM, and if you don't want to pay somebody, I mean, it's not like as the coach, they're still gonna play hard for you as a coach because hey, that's not your decision.
Mm-hmm.
You're also the GM, and you're part of the people saying we're not gonna pay this dude. Are they gonna play as hard for you? Who
Yeah.
knows? So, I mean, I see
Uh,
why. I'm really not shocked. After Atlanta said no, I mean, I didn't see anywhere else he was going to go. Atlanta, it was
yeah,
pretty much Atlanta or nobody, I thought.
yeah, and I think you even mentioned it in an episode or two ago when we talked about it. But you also don't know um, how long he's going to be there. Obviously, it's not
Yeah,
quite as important it is with college and recruiting, but
right.
who's to say that once he gets, if he, breaks Don Shula's record, that he's like, all right, well, at the
I'm
end of the
out.
season, I'm done now. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I do think that I'm sure the first coach ends up on a hot seat. Bill Belichick's name is going to
Oh,
be
his name will,
thrown
of course,
around.
it'll
Oh
come
yeah,
up whether it's true or not.
yeah. It'll
Of
it'll
course,
come
yeah,
up before the
it'll come
season.
up no matter
When
what.
all
Oh
those
yeah,
list of coaches that are starting
October,
the season on a
November.
hot seat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. October, November, we'll hear his name up.
yeah,
Oh, you
uh-huh.
know, you'll hear his name. I was actually more shocked at I can't even think of his name right now. The Tennessee Titans former coach,
Mike.
one
Yeah,
head
Mike
coach,
Vrabel. That's
Mike
a
Vrabel.
real big one. He's a great
I
coach,
was more
young.
shocked that he didn't get it in
Yeah,
Belichick, honestly. But,
yeah. It's the NFL's moving toward, I guess, younger coordinators.
younger,
The Dan
yeah,
Quinn. Yeah, it's a weird one, especially at Washington. We've seen Dan Quinn as a head coach before.
yeah,
It's not like he had 2 seasons and got fired, and it's like, well, he's screwed by ownership or whatever. He had
yeah,
more than 5 seasons in Atlanta.
yeah. It wasn't the
Um,
prettiest.
like we mentioned, he had 43-42 record, and then the biggest Super Bowl choke job of all time.
Yeah,
So that was a weird one to me because I figured if anywhere, Washington, Mike Vrabel kind of would have fit there. We've seen him, um, make the most out of less than stellar quarterback situations.
exactly.
But I think that fan base would have really loved him, embraced him there.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. And I
so
don't,
that's an
I, yeah,
interesting
honestly,
one.
I don't think, I mean, I know some Washington fans just from Facebook and everything, and I don't think anybody was overly thrilled with the hire.
Yeah,
I
Dan
don't know.
Quinn is not a needle mover. He doesn't really excite you
No,
there.
no. So we'll
But
see.
yeah, we'll see exactly. Let's see. Elsewhere in sports this week, not much going on in the NBA. They're kind of still, the All Star reserves were named.
Mm-hmm.
There's some snubs that people talked about. Rudy Gobert didn't make the team. No one from the Pelicans, not Ingram or Zion. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen Jamal Murray's name thrown out there as a snub. Kristaps Porzingis. Just some names like that, but nothing too huge. I know that Trey Young. A lot of people um, saying that he maybe could have, but maybe it's the Hawks record that kept him out.
Right.
I know there were calls for Victor Wembanyama to get All Star knob. It's probably the same thing.
Just the wins.
Unfortunately, it's the wins, which is kind of nonsense because the All Star game should just be about the best players. It's not an
Exactly.
MVP award or anything. But
Right.
I tell you what, that Rising Stars game that will be a
That's
fun
gonna
one
be a
though
fun
because
one.
he'll
Yeah.
be in that. Our boy Brandon Miller's in that, and he's a
Yeah.
guy that's really coming on of late.
He has. Yeah. And he's been playing good the last 2 or 3 weeks for sure.
Yes, post that Terry Rozier trade to Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and now that's kind of more and more his team there.
Yeah.
Especially with is Lamelo still hurt there too? I think.
I think so. I don't think he's
Yeah.
playing
So
yet.
yeah. So there was a trade this week. Kind of a won't really have an impact on this year. The Grizzlies sent Steven Adams to Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and in return got Victor Oladipo and three
Yeah.
second-round picks. Neither Oladipo or Steven Adams have played at all this year. They're
Right.
still recovering from injuries suffered last year. This is basically like a big old salary trade. I'm pretty sure Oladipo is on
Yep.
an expiring, so Memphis will
Yep.
get to dump him. And with John Moran out for
Mm-hmm.
the year, they're probably trying to clear salary cap for
Yep.
the off
Do
season, and
something. Yeah.
yeah, and they probably project at this point now they'll probably get a pretty high lottery pick.
Moderate pick. Yeah.
Um, and then Houston, playing better than a lot of people would thought. And they're another team, young core. So I think Adams uh, maybe is that's looking to the future. I think he's still got a couple years on his contract.
Right.
Um, but that's something maybe just a good veteran to add to their young core
Yeah.
there. But nothing really. It's not a
Nothing. Nothing.
nothing huge there. Um,
Right.
but yeah, let's go ahead and get to the Super Bowl. As we know, next week, uh, 49ers Chiefs rematch from a few years ago. Just have a few questions. I think that's how we'll frame this preview. And my first one will start San Francisco side. It's kind of a double question here. Is Brock Purdy good enough to win the Super Bowl for San Francisco? And the second part of that is, does he have to be good enough?
Is he good enough? I mean, he's lived. I mean, he's done a heck of a job. It's all saw it last year. We've seen it this year. I mean, there's nothing says he can't do it. I mean, he's won on the biggest stages that he's played in. Of course, he was out last year in NFC Championship game. He got hurt, and that's when they kind of fell apart. So, I mean, obviously, he's a difference maker for the 49er team. I don't think he has to play an excellent game, but he. I would say the main thing is he can't have the turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when big thing for them is that when they get in the red zone, you have to score touchdowns to beat the Chiefs. Field goals
Mm-hmm.
doesn't beat the Chiefs. So, I mean, if he can orchestrate, through touchdown drives, and not turn the ball over, I mean, they're right there. I mean, the talent is there. Whether you consider him a game manager or a star quarterback, I mean, obviously that's a big debate the league right now. You see it all over this place. He's definitely, I would say, I would say a much better version of Jimmy G
Hmm.
in that, Jimmy G, he was kind of there. He was never going to lose you a game, but could he win you a game? We've seen
Hmm.
Brock Purdy go out and win games. I mean, we've seen him with some
Yeah.
clutch passes. We saw him, against Detroit. He had that beautiful touchdown pass.
We've seen him this twice this postseason. Not
Yeah,
just helping lead the comeback against Detroit, but also
hmm
that final drive against Green Bay the week before.
yeah, yeah,
He led them right down, the field.
right. So I mean, he obviously knows how to win.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think
he
I
makes.
don't think I think it's just a matter of him not making mistakes. If he doesn't have the turnovers, San Francisco very well could win. On the other side,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be more of Pat Mahomes is just magical at what he does. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, if there was a year that the Chiefs shouldn't be in the Super Bowl, it'd be this year. I mean, for the most time, their 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 wide receiver, I mean, they're very average.
Hmm.
Nothing exceptional. I mean, they're not scoring nearly as many points, not nearly as explosive, but they always find ways to win. The defense has been pretty good this year, probably a little underrated. We talk so much about Kelsey and Mahomes, but that defense is, Steve Spagnuolo's defense has been fantastic
Oh,
this year.
he's there. You could almost name him the team MVP.
Yeah, because I mean, what
Yeah,
they,
what he's done.
you know,
That actually, yeah, that leads to my other question regarding Kansas City. You almost asked it, but it's been a remarkable turnaround. Their defense is the reason
hmm
they got to as far as they have.
oh yeah,
For all the magic that Mahomes and
Th-
Kelsey can do, uh,
yeah. I mean,
if
have
their
they
defense was
not
like the
given up?
last, yeah, if their defense was giving up 30 points a game, they're not.
No, they're not
This
doing it.
team,
I don't think they've
you
given up
know.
20 all year.
mm. So are they good enough to stop the 49ers offense?
I'd say so.
Hmm.
You know, I think both defenses are good enough to stop both offenses. And I really think that that's a star. Just how good we know how good the 49ers defense can be. We know how good the Chiefs defense can be. I think that's where we're really going to see a good game. I expect a low scoring game. Kind of 2017, 24-21 type of ball game. Honestly, I'd be shocked if we have a high score at all, just because that's just been these, this type this type of game. I mean, honestly, even when they played a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, it was a low scoring game there.
Hmm.
So I would expect a low scoring, almost who has the ball last type of game there. But I mean, I expect a good game either way. Like I'd be shocked if it's a blowout either way. But I'd also be shocked if it's high scoring just because I don't think either team's really gonna, have it. I just don't see a super explosive game. But both teams are gonna do some clutch. When it comes down to it, the fourth quarter is really gonna be when they're gonna score. Because I see first
Hmm.
2 or 3 quarters kind of here and there, but nothing earth shattering, and we'll really see them the clutch gene set in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, kind of feel each other out for
Exactly.
a few quarters, a couple quarters.
Yeah.
I think Vegas agrees with you. The over under right now is only 47.5. So
Yeah.
like you said, a 24-21 game that still
Yeah.
hit the under right there.
hmm
San Francisco is favored by 2 right
That's
now.
that's crazy. Like every week,
Mhm.
it's always Chiefs are slight underdog. At this point, could you really bet against the Chiefs? I mean,
Mhm. Actually,
yeah,
now I'd look at it, the line has actually been bumped up to 2.5.
2.5.
Um, a lot, apparently, a lot of action early was on the Chiefs, and I
Uh-huh.
think it's
Even out a little bit.
yeah. Now that
And if I'm
now
gonna if I'm
some
gonna
later
bet it,
action on the Niners. Yeah.
yeah. If I were betting, I would definitely either. I mean, I think I mean, I would go with the Chiefs money line. I mean, there's no reason to bet. I mean, when you bet against the Chiefs, I mean, it seems to go against you. I mean, that just seems to be dumb to do. I mean, Buffalo, they were the slight underdog. Baltimore, they were slight underdog. And those were tough road
Hmm.
games. I mean, this is going to be I mean, it's not going to be really an advantage for either team there. Super Bowls are
No,
a real
yeah.
corporate feel these days. So, I
Hmm.
mean, it's not going to be super loud or anything. So, I mean, it's nothing intimidating. So, I mean,
No, it's in a city where Kansas City goes every year. It's in a city
yeah,
that's not too far away from San Francisco.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a true neutral site.
Hmm.
Just reading some of the interesting prop bets and stuff like that. Looks like someone Caesars took a bet of 100 grand for on the coin toss to land tails from somebody. DraftKings says that tails is their most popular prop bet right now. Um,
I'm sure there'll be how many times the Taylor Swift gets seen. I'm sure
mhm.
that'll be somewhere.
Let's
And I
see.
think that's the most annoying thing in this whole Super Bowl week is just all that talk about her and Travis Kelsey. And
Hmm.
like, bro,
And yeah, in both ways, it's like on the one hand, it's like okay, yeah, he dates a famous, you know, pop star or whatever. Tony Romo did the same thing, and we got shots of Jessica
hmm
Simpson all the time in the booth. But yeah, I think
like after
with
every,
Twitter and everything, it makes it seem that much more in your face.
yeah, whether it is or
And
not,
then
it just seems that
but
way.
then there's the other side of it where people calling it a conspiracy for Joe Biden. It's just like y'all, if you are a grown ass man and get that upset over Taylor Swift being at the
Yeah,
Super Bowl or wherever
chill
at a
out.
football game, man, yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
chill out.
it ain't that
Yeah.
deep, man.
If, yeah, if that's the thing that's your biggest concern of the week,
Mhm.
your life's pretty good.
And yeah, and not to get too political, but that's a risky. That's some muddy waters that you're treading into if you're the a Republican and you want to take on the Swifties because they will organize and force and
Boy, yeah, that's not what you want.
you will get lopsided in an election that
Yeah,
way. You piss them off.
yeah, that's not what you
Yeah,
want. Not what
no.
you want at all.
But yeah, it goes both ways. It's like, yeah, we're going to see it with all the stories about her travel. Can she,
Yeah, can
she's
she
got a
make
show in
it?
Tokyo the day before. Can she
Yeah,
make it? And then the flip side is like, well, that's bad for the environment, carbon gas. And it's like, yeah, it can be exhausting, but at the same time, it's like you don't have to read the stories, y'all.
yeah,
If she's on your screen, you can look at your phone. Um,
yeah.
just chill out.
I mean, if
But
she's there, she's
yeah,
there. If she's not, she's not. I mean, it's still the Super Bowl. Honestly, that's why. I mean, I pretty much just
mhm,
turn on about game time because all the like some of the stories are alright, but just all the just all the stories. I don't know.
mhm,
Like, let's just play the game. And
yeah,
that's my biggest down thing with that weekend between the NFC,
mhm,
one of the title games, and then the Super Bowl. I just wish they'd run
mhm,
it consecutive, but like they used to.
mhm.
But
Um, It's funny because there are some prop bets even involving her. Let's see, trying to see some of them. Sorry, just reading a little thing about they're kind of basically they're all tied into Travis Kelsey. It's basically just labeling them with some sort of her name or something like
right,
that, trying to entice them. But a lot of sports books are actually saying that they can't really um, have any bets on her because of rules and regulations, because they basically
right,
would be uh, subjective and stuff.
right.
But so a lot of it is tied to like. Here's one that's interesting. It's called Swift Action, where there'll be a touchdown scored in the first 2 minutes. That type of stuff.
Okay, yeah. It's really all you
But
can
yeah,
do because I mean, if you say she's gonna get seen 12 times in the Super Bowl, like who's gonna sit there? Who's gonna go back
yeah,
and count?
yeah,
Over under
exactly.
12 or whatever. Like whose job is that? But yeah.
But
But
yeah,
I think overall, I mean, we got a good game. And crazy enough, I mean, it was a pretty entertaining season. But yeah, we got most people's two favorites to make the Super Bowl going into the season.
Yeah, maybe not the road that everybody took. San Francisco is the
Right.
one seed, so they did do their thing, and they
Yeah.
just struggled at times.
hmm
Um,
Not the road
Kansas
that
City
people
got
expected for
there.
Kansas City, but
Yeah.
they still got there. Had to go on the road twice to do it, and that's
Um,
new ground for the Chiefs. But hey, they made it through. But I think it seemed like that was a lot of people's preseason was San Francisco and the Chiefs, and we kind of
mhm.
got what a lot of people expected. And I think we had talked about this start. It wasn't so much that we thought the Chiefs were so much better than anybody else. It just said until someone beats the Chiefs, why would you not pick the Chiefs?
Exactly. When, like you said, when you got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, and then Andy Reid,
I mean, they've just been
yeah,
they've just been amazing. I mean,
mhm.
yeah, I think, and we just live in that moment where we're like always, but you got this. That man has yet to not be in at least the AFC Championship game every year of his career as a
That's
starting
insane.
quarterback in Kansas
Insane.
City. That is just wild.
All right.
This man
All
is
right.
on the verge of winning his third Super Bowl already. I mean, that's crazy.
hmm
Most
Um,
great quarterbacks don't even make three Super Bowls.
right. So with all that said, then let me get your prediction. Who's going to win, and then let's get an MVP prediction too.
Yeah. I think it's hard to go against, like I said, until someone beats the Chiefs. And you have to go Chiefs here. And take that 24-21 Chiefs. Last heroics with Mahomes. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be game winning touchdown, game winning field goal, but you're going to lead that last drive to put them over the top. How about you?
I agree with everything you say, but I am going to go the other way. I think the
Going
Niners
to
are going to get it done
49ers.
this time. I think Shanahan's going to get his. They're another team. They've played in how many NFC title games?
Yeah,
Made the
they've
Super
been
Bowl a
there.
few years back. They've been right on the
Yeah.
doorstep. I think what we talked about with uh, Brock Purdy, he can win the game if he needs to. He can make the plays. If he
hmm
doesn't, if he plays smart within himself, and he's got enough weapons around him, with
He does have
Debo,
a lot
Brandon
of
Ayuk,
weapons.
and Christian McCaffrey. I think I'll tab Christian McCaffrey as the MVP. Actually, I think maybe
MVP.
a lot of people thought maybe he should have. I mean, granted, they haven't announced the MVP, but it does seem that Lamar Jackson will win the regular season MVP award.
That's here,
Uh,
rightfully so. I mean,
yeah, yeah. But McCaffrey played a great hell of a season
he
himself
did.
too, and hometown
He
boy,
did.
sort
Yeah.
of. So I think maybe he gets a couple touchdowns, maybe one of those games where he has like around 90 some yards rushing, and then another like 80 or something receiving. He's just making a lot of
hmm
plays. Maybe,
Right.
same thing. Score wise, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Uh, I think something like a 24-17 game, maybe something like that.
I could see it.
Maybe a back and forth. Like, I agree with you too. It might be something like 10-3 at halftime or even low scoring, and then the fourth quarter might really explode.
Yeah.
But I think most of all, the reason I picked that, I do think the Chiefs defense is real. I think Chris Jones could just absolutely be the reason they wreck shop. If they can't block him, he might just destroy everything. But I think they have
Yeah.
enough weapons, and I think the 49ers offensive staff could watch that AFC game tape and just be like, well, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to run the
Yeah.
ball. We have an
Yeah.
outstanding
They
running back.
won't.
They've got a couple
hmm
of pretty good running backs behind him too, where they can, Elijah Mitchell, they can switch it up. I
hmm
think they'll have a much better game plan than Todd Monken and the Ravens did.
Right. Yeah, they had that experience. I mean, it's in their
Uh,
first rodeo there. So I
mhm,
mean, they're not gonna be rattled.
yeah,
If the Chiefs get off to a quick start or anything, they're not gonna
yeah,
get away from what they got them there, and that's what
uh,
the Ravens didn't do, of
mhm,
course, as they
mhm,
got away from what got them to the AFC title game. Yeah, 49ers won't do that, but
mhm,
yeah, I think we're in for a good game. I'd be shocked in the other if it goes any other way than a close one either way. But
mhm. Um, yeah, no, I think defensively, I think the 49ers are going to do more to take Kelsey out of the game and make that, like we
Other
said,
people
kind of
win.
very average receiving corp, make the plays. Another guy, sneaky guy to look out for in this game that could steal an MVP or make a big difference, Isaiah Pacheco on the Chiefs
Yeah,
side.
that's what I was
Uh-huh.
gonna say as my MVP, Pacheco. I mean, he has been outside of Kelsey, definitely the most consistent guy for the Chiefs. Explosive, can catch the ball, runs well. Like he gives you a little bit of everything. And yeah, uh,
Yeah,
he,
I think, did you mention it last week or is that someone else I was listening to? But that he's almost taken on a Marshall Falk role in this offense. Um,
I don't know if I can take credit for that one, but yeah, I
and
mean,
but
he
say, and
kind of does
now,
fit
granted,
the.
that's a big comparison too. But
But I mean, yeah, it's not Marshall Falk, one of the greats, but yeah, I mean, for what it is, definitely a decent comparison because I mean, he does have that. It does give you the versatility there from a running back. Can catch out the backfield well. Always has a chance to score a touchdown on every play. There gives you that explosiveness. So dangerous guy.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, let's see. That's pretty much it. Do you think this year's halftime show will be better than last year's? Um,
I'm trying to think. What was
Last year was
last?
the kind of that West Coast hip hop, the Dr. Dre and company.
That's right. That was last year. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
This year we got Usher and
yeah,
whoever
sure.
else he might bring
You know,
out.
it's good.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, I think overall, I thought. I mean, I liked last year's. I thought it was. I don't. I mean, it was okay. I thought it had a lot of hype because of the names and everything, but I don't think it was nearly as good as what I expected. Usher obviously has quite the catalog, and I think he'll have a lot of guests. I mean, overall, I think this year's might be better.
Hmm. Do you have like a favorite halftime show from all time, or
That Prince one, he actually was in the
I
rain
mean,
and
yeah,
everything. That's kind of tough to beat right there.
no, yeah, I think that's widely regarded as the best show ever.
Yeah, I mean it's just the fact that all that happened in the rain too. I mean, what
Mhm.
are the chances, right?
Yeah, one of the
That's
few days a year it actually rains in Miami, and yeah,
yeah, that's just
um,
crazy. That's
and I
probably the
was,
most iconic, but I mean, I'd say overall though, I think Super Bowl shows are getting better.
hmm
For a while, I mean, they were terrible.
yeah,
I
they had
mean,
that weird after the Janet
Janet Jackson
Jackson. Yeah, they kind of went back and they tried to go safe with a bunch of old classic rock
has-beens, and
acts. Yeah,
none of
and
them
some of it
feel
was
like ever
fine.
moved the needle. But
There were some guys in there. It's just they don't. Some of those acts don't really lend themselves to the a newer audience or
right,
just a quick 20-minute show like it is. Like
yeah,
one of my favorites. Tom Petty did one year, and I don't remember anything from it because I've seen him in concert multiple times, and
hmm
I get a couple hours there.
yeah.
So that's I think that's
And
part of
you
what
have
makes the
to,
Prince one so iconic because
yeah,
he's a guy that you want to see a whole time, but he also is a entertainer, much like
right,
Usher. Like kind of
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing with Super Bowl. You have to. I mean, there's good, but you have to have a lot of hits. But it has to be I guess, more the commercial, uh,
hmm
big hit, top of the chart type thing to really move for the little time that you have. I mean, you can't start off slow or anything, or you
Yeah,
kind of just have to,
you got
you
to have
know,
that mass appeal, and yeah, like you said, you got
yeah,
to just boom, boom, get to it.
have hits.
I will say
I think we'll
though,
definitely see that, but once
oh yeah, and
Super
yeah,
Bowl
I'm
does
sure we'll
it
get
for
some
sure.
guests. Maybe a little
Yeah,
John appearance, something like that.
yeah,
I I agree with you on the Prince one too. I think that's what you have to be. Although
yeah.
maybe the most fun, of course, might have been the Janet Jackson Justin Timberlake.
That was epic.
Because of I don't know. I mean, we were at Ballmeyer's in
Yeah,
Tuscaloosa,
I mean,
and
it
our
just went
friends,
crazy.
and the bar exploded. We had kitchen guys running out of the kitchen. Did you see that?
Yeah,
Like
just epic.
just insane. Yeah, just an insane moment in time. But all right, yeah, I think we've talked about everything we can this week.
Yeah.
What's been done up real good for you lately?
Done up for me really good. Let's see. Honestly, what's in the works, so I don't want to jinx it too much, but I actually might have the opportunity to move back to Alabama.
Oh,
And
well,
I'm kind of excited about that. So we'll see how it plays out. But so far, so good with the interview process. So I'm kind of excited. Kind of wanted to
well,
get
yeah.
back there, get out the cold. So maybe we're headed in that direction. How about you?
uh, trying to think. Whatever my wife's cooking right now smells really good. So that's
Hey,
done up pretty good
that's
right
always a
there.
good
Yeah,
thing. Heck yeah.
yeah, exactly. Other than that, it's just been life's good, easy.
Yeah.
Like I said, it has warmed up a little bit here in Birmingham, except for today. Today's just been one of those miserable, cold, rainy days. It's just
But if you're gonna
so
have that, sometimes Sunday's the best day. Kind of just chill,
yeah,
relax at
exactly.
home,
Yeah,
put
and that's
some
what
good
we've
on the
been doing.
TV, and
Yeah, just watching the kid crawl around.
yeah,
He's he's
exploring,
so close to walking
figuring
now,
things
and
out.
it's oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's too smart, man. I don't like it.
yeah,
And he's so close to walking. He's got his
yeah,
little trucks and push toys or whatever
oh
he can
yeah,
stand on and walk them on.
oh
And
yeah.
once
He's
he
gonna be
starts
right
walking, he's
there.
going to be
Watch
all over
out.
the place. Yeah,
Watch out. Oh yeah.
but yeah. So yeah, that does it for us, folks. We are. It'll be a 2 week break, or yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. We're not going to do an episode next week. I'll be out of town for the Mardi Gras. Um,
Nice.
headed down to New Orleans as we always do for our
That's awesome.
festivities. So I'll be out of town for that, and the Super Bowl would end too late for us to really record anyway, probably. So um, wouldn't have much. So we'll see you
Right.
guys in a couple of weeks. We'll have, of course, the Super Bowl to recap, some Alabama
Hmm.
basketball action, and
Yeah.
whatever else happens in between then. As always, give us a good subscribe and good ratings wherever you listen to your podcast. Tell your friends about us. Tell your rich friends about us. Check out all the podcasts in the Alabama Take family of podcast. Check out the alabamatake.com for writings and everything else there. And keep it done up real good yourselves out there, y'all. Greg, take it easy, buddy.
You too, buddy.